Peggy Hurson.
And I'm hungover.
Aww.
Scott Clark.
And we're coming to you from the coffee shop. We're recording today at Dubsea Coffee in White Center, and it's Sunday, July 14th.
Yeah.
Yay!
All day.
So this place, I found it on I Shouldn't Tap the Table.
That's right.
I noticed in our last episode, I clinked my coffee because it came in a glass cup, and you can hear it like a million times. But this place I found on a list of the best coffee shops in Seattle, and I think because of the pictures are different, they must have moved locations. But their whole thing is like they have a bunch of art on the walls that is like local artists.
Right,
and
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's in this weird little strip. Like, did you notice there's like a sheriff's office over there? And that's like a public health clinic behind you. Like, it's a very weird, and then I think it's above it is all apartments.
It's a very new-ish development. I just saw something that caught my eyes, solar panels, which I'm all about.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm already in love with this place.
It is super new construction. It's really cute. And I saw a whole bunch of old, I think, Chinese people walking around having little conversations with each other in what sounded like Mandarin.
Oh, really?
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute.
Oh, that'd be kind of neat. Actually, just take walk up and just record a little snippet of it. That'd be kind of cool to have. So our coffee today came to us from Sybil, who was really nice. I talked to her.
She was really nice.
I talked to her and let her know that we're recording here. This is the first time we've actually
informed people.
Yeah, informed people. I think that's kind of a good move because then they're informed and then they can look for us and then they can also promote it.
Totally, and it's like in the past we've just sort of like grabbed a table and not mentioned it.
Right, just sneak in.
Podcasting. But the coffee's great. I noticed it's Stumptown, which tends to be my favorite. That's where they get their brewed
the
coffee.
roaster,
yeah.
the Stumptown Roasters.
Yeah, which I like their coffee a lot. I feel like I have a man voice this morning.
Yeah, it's
Although I did not drink last night, but I did stay out the entire day and I was with my sister's family.
Right.
I took my niece to a matinee at Taproot Theater Company. They're doing the musical version, a new musical of Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And I'm a big Shakespeare fan and also a big musical theater fan.
So what's Twelfth Night?
So Twelfth Night is the one
totally
where...
I'm totally ignorant on Shakespeare
that's okay.
other than Romeo and Juliet.
To me, it's the most legitimately funny Shakespearean play. Like there's a lot of comedies that are like quote unquote funny, but like this one is actually funny to me. But it's the one where the girl gets shipwrecked, and like she's shipwrecked with a trunk of her brother's clothes, and so she starts dressing like her brother in order to kind of like covertly move among the land that she's stranded in. And then like she falls in love with a duke, but she's dressed like a man, and the duke is in love with this other woman, but then the woman falls in love with the girl dressed as the boy, and then her twin brother shows up, and then it's all like this person, like the duke, like declaring his love for the brother.
It's like one of those in and out, like it's like a confusing comedy.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
A lot of twists and stuff.
It's all just like goofy, and then there's these two side characters who just like mess with people. Like their whole thing is just to like make as much mischief as possible.
They're the chaos makers.
Yes, and so they like trick this really stuffy like butler into thinking that the woman of the house, who's the noble woman, is in love with him and wants him to like dress up in bizarre clothes. And so then he like comes out doing all these really bizarre things with like yellow tights on.
And this was played where? Where did you see this at?
It's at the Taproot Theater Company, and it was really good. It was like the first half drags a little bit because it's Shakespeare and it always does, and then the second half, I think I laughed like beginning to end of the second half. Yeah.
Right. So they modded it. You say it was a different.
It was a musicalization. Which I thought was really interesting because they kept most of the original language because it's written mostly in rhyming couplets, and so it translated into musical theater really well, I thought.
Cool.
But they shortened it a lot because you're singing, and so everything slows way down. So they kind of condensed the story, and it has tons of music, and it had like a little live, it's like little like drums and flute and I forget what all the instruments were, but like a little live instrumental section.
Like an orchestra.
Yeah, but like only like 4 or 5 members.
Oh, okay. So like a quartet.
Yeah,
type,
pretty
almost.
much.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
it was really fun, and it was my niece's, like the only other time, she's 12.
Oh, okay.
Or 11. She's turning 12, I think. I always forget how old people are.
Still at the fun age. She's not emo yet, is she?
She's super like, I don't know what the word is for her, but she's very like for example, this week, I spent so much time with my family this week because I've been off work. We were sitting at the table and she's like, my friend tried to make me watch the stupidest show. And I was like, what show? And she's like, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Beavis and Butthead. And I was like, no, I love Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, right?
Like my heart broke. And she's like,
no.
it was so dumb. And I was like,
the best thing about it is it's stupid.
Totally.
Yeah.
So she's very like kind of like she hates silly things. Not like silly, but like she doesn't like Alice in Wonderland because it's all absurd. And she's just like she likes stuff that's more like real in a weird way.
Wow.
So she's really interesting. Like she's very, I don't know what the word is for that. It's not anal. It's like she likes certain things.
She's a little bit rigid. Sounds
a little bit.
Yeah, but not in a bad way.
Yeah, but she's not very like. But then again, she's also like super free-spirited. Like she's a really weird mix of things. But she doesn't like a lot of like too much nonsense. And so I was like, well, Shakespeare seems like something she would be into because it's more like literary. She's really smart.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
that's what it is. She's just
she's
too intellectual.
Right, her intellect's really high.
But
she likes that intellectual humor. Does she like that?
Yeah, she does. Okay. Totally. If it's like smart, funny, she likes it. If it's like poop and fart jokes, she's like, this is stupid.
Yeah. Which are the best jokes ever.
I love poop and fart jokes.
Yeah.
So, but she had only ever seen Shakespeare in the Park and hated it because Shakespeare in the Park tends to be like not that great of actors, so they're not really selling it, and they usually don't cut a lot, and so it's really long.
Oh.
And so she said she really enjoyed this one because it was like short.
They made it funner.
Yeah, and it moved. Like the second half was just all slapstick comedy. It was just like one ridiculous thing to the end.
Yeah.
And they had a guy who's in Teatro Zanzani and also this children's theater company.
I've heard of that place, but I've never been in there.
Me neither. My parents went once, but I'm actually trying to go with my sister one of these days.
Isn't it like a dinner place? Dinner and like
kind
a show?
of like a circus-y show, yeah. He's one of the performers with them, and he also is in the children's theater company, and he played a fool who like did magic tricks and stuff, and so that was really fun because he did like a rope trick that was really like it was really good for an actor, especially like he did some sleight of hand and like it all looked really legit.
Cool.
So it was fun.
Is that a continuing run, or is this like a one?
Yeah, we went to the first performance.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to be going for like a month and a half.
Oh, cool.
And I got really cheap tickets.
That's the best. That's the best even.
Yeah, totally.
Where'd you get them at?
I subscribe to Gold Star.
Okay.
It's like an email that you get every day, and it tells you like it does like half price tickets to certain performances of shows. And I've gotten a bunch of really good deals. Like
so it's kind of like a almost
like half price,
like a Groupon type thing.
Sort of, yeah.
And
then
social.
Like another time, my friend and I went to see Jersey Boys, and we got the tickets for like nothing.
Joycey.
It was great, except I didn't like that show very much.
Yeah.
The sound was really, really terrible.
Yeah.
It was at Fifth Avenue Theater, and the sound was like, I couldn't even understand half of what they said.
They didn't have it.
Bad.
They had their sound system wasn't set up with acoustics.
I don't know what it was because I've seen other shows there. Like the men's chorus just did Hairspray in concert there, and the sound was fabulous. Like it was crystal clear, and you could hear everything everybody said. And I was in about the same place in the theater, like the back of the orchestra.
Right. It's maybe just how they had to, maybe it's just the way they had to, like, the speakers or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So anyway, then we went to the play, and then we went to Mercer Island's summer festival or whatever.
Is that where you had to see the fireworks?
Uh-huh. Yeah, it was really fun. But it was like, basically then I was up from like 9 a.m. to like midnight, and then I got home finally, and then I was up until like 3 a.m.
Oh, you beat me. I went to bed at 1.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was an interesting night for us.
So
we went to a Cambodian wedding reception last night, which is I've been to one before, and I've been to other functions, and usually every time I've been, there's always a bottle at every table of cognac, some kind of cognac,
geez.
and you drink, and I immediately turned over like the keys to my wife and says, "Okay, here we go," and I got shit faced. As a matter of fact, I posted a picture. Her, like when you tag somebody, she was tagged designated driver, and I was tagged shit faced.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, I really can't recall too much of the events. I mean, people were dancing, and there's lots of food. I ate so much. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
And then, but the really cool part was just the next block over, Tacoma had a block party. It was a Pride block party.
Oh, cool.
We didn't get in because didn't want to pay for admission, but you could stand. It was like you didn't need to get in because you could stand right on the fence and watch the concert. So it was a gay,
cool.
rapper. I don't even know who it was. But I was so drunk, I was out there dancing on the sidewalk.
Nice.
It was pretty.
That's really funny.
It was really funny.
That's the thing with Pride is not all cities do it the same weekend.
Right.
So I feel like summer now is just like, especially on Facebook, because I have friends that live all over the country.
Right.
It's just like a rolling Pride parade. Like every weekend somebody has pictures of like Kansas City's Pride parade, and then the next weekend it's Las Vegas. Excuse me.
Yeah,
it's so funny to me. They basically like taken over summer as like the rolling Pride party.
July is the Pride month.
See, but then in Chicago it's the last weekend of June.
Is it?
I swear it's a different weekend.
Yeah.
Every last.
Yeah.
Which
It's fun
a friend
though.
told me once.
Goodness.
Oh, totally. A friend told me once it's because it used to be, like a traveling parade.
Oh.
That like the groups would go to different cities each thing, but now that it's gotten like really big, they just keep, each city has the weekend that they're used to doing it, and they just do it that weekend.
Yeah, and they'll chunks break off.
And in Chicago, they have both Pride and Market Days, and I have no idea what Market Days is, but it's another Pride. Like it's in Boys Town. It's like the same kinds of things, but they just call it Market Days and have it in August.
It's just so they call it something else, but it's the same thing.
Another
Just so they can,
Pride festival, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Anything to get together and have a good time.
Yeah.
It just seems like so much fun to me. It doesn't bother me at all.
Totally. No, me neither.
They're out there shaking their ass, so I did the same thing.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Standing on the outside of the chain link fence.
Did you wear a kilt?
I don't have one yet.
Dang it.
I want to get one.
You should just get a bed sheet and make it into your homemade quilt.
I
so
won't.
that then you have a stand-in until you get a real quilt.
I only have one bed sheet.
Am I saying quilt? I mean kilt.
Kilt.
I think I said quilt half the time.
Patchwork. That would actually kind of be cool. You take a bunch of old jeans and make a kilt out of it. That'd be really neat.
That would be hilarious.
I'd make it too short probably though.
Show a little bit too much off.
Yeah, well, I'd be safe because I never go commando. I always wear the midways,
Yeah.
the in-betweens, not boxers, not briefs. I wear the boxer briefs.
I do the same thing. I have like little bike shorts that I wear under every dress I wear.
Yeah.
And for me, it's comfort and not worrying
Security.
about whether people can see up my dress or not. And I started doing it in high school, and I've never stopped. And now it's like right now I'm wearing a little dress, and I've just got a pair of like cotton shorts on under it.
Keeps the legs from chafing.
It
too.
does, I
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
it's just comfortable, so it's sort of, because I wouldn't go out in like little like pajama shorts, but I'd go out in a dress with pajama shorts on under it.
Yeah.
In Chicago in the winter, I used to wear...
Keeps you warm too.
Yeah, totally. That's the thing. I used to wear long skirts with flannel pajama bottoms under it, tucked into my boots.
Oh.
So you couldn't see them.
Smart.
And it kept me real warm.
Smart. It's smart.
It was really nice.
You basically, in the environment, you just got to outthink the environment.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't want to, because to me, my mentality is flip-flops, tank tops, and shorts, and that's what I want to wear all the time, but I can't, because I'll lose toes.
It's true.
I'll lose them.
It gets a little too cold here for that.
Yeah.
Have you lived in like Nevada or Arizona, you could get away with it.
Oh, I'd love to live there.
Yeah, I know, you told me that. But when I lived in Las Vegas, my problem was I was wearing sandals all year round, and my feet got just destroyed.
Oh, yeah,
I
it
used
gets
to
dry.
have to go, big time.
Yeah.
Like get manicures, or not manicures, pedicures, like every 6 weeks all year, just because like my feet would dry out and like crack, and it was really bad.
When we lived in Thailand, didn't have that problem. I never
Well,
really
but
had that
it's really
problem.
humid in
That's true.
Thailand, because
That's
the
true.
problem was the dryness.
The dryness. It's
And-
so arid, it sucks all the moisture out of you.
Yep. And it goes right out of your feet.
It's weird. It
Yeah.
usually goes out the top of my head.
I know.
That's why I'm going bald. I think
Aw, you're cooking your
I'm
hair.
steaming my hair off.
Nice. So, I watched a really fantastic movie this week that I wanted to talk about. if
Okay,
that's
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you done talking about your Cambodian wedding and how you're hungover?
No, it'll pop up again, I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
right on. I did a whole bunch of other stupid stuff this week too, but oh well. I've just been hanging out with my family. It's been really fun. It's been a really good vacation. I
Oh,
still
cool.
have today, tomorrow, and Tuesday off. So I haven't been working.
I'm off till Thursday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love having time off work.
You and me both.
I know. So, okay. So I
Family.
watched the documentary Hot Coffee. It's on Netflix right now.
Oh.
And I had heard of it a long time ago and never got to see it. And then I finally saw that it was on Netflix, so I watched it. It's about the McDonald's court case.
Oh yeah, okay, I seen that.
Like the really. Have you seen the documentary?
I seen that
the court case,
not
or the trailer.
Yeah, the actual posting of that. So I was looking through that and I was gonna watch it actually.
You should totally watch it.
Okay.
I won't. I'll try not to ruin anything.
Oh, you won't. I'll watch it anyway.
Cool. Well, it starts out talking about, everybody's heard of the court case where the woman
burned her cooter.
herself and then sued McDonald's, and it talks about like the perceptions people have about what happened versus what actually happened, and like they show you like the pictures of the woman's burns.
Oh, was it pretty bad?
And it's horrific. Like, because the story I heard was that, some woman spilled coffee on herself and then is like, oh, the coffee's hot. Well, of course it's hot, it's coffee. But really, like, the story is that, like, the coffee was like 200 degrees and it gave her third-degree burns all over her crotch. And, like, she wasn't even driving. She was sitting in the passenger side, and, like, the heat of the coffee, like, structurally compromised the cup. And so it was like, through no fault of her own, the coffee just like melted onto her and like burned. The pictures are really bad.
Wow.
And then they talk about like how the court case really changed McDonald's. Like it forced them to change their protocol, and like that there were all these other people that were also burned who didn't sue. And so now like their instance rates of burning people with their coffee and before the court case were really high, and then after the court case really low, because they had to change how they brewed their coffee.
Turn down the temperature down, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just like the first little section of the documentary, and then the rest is all about how the last 20 years, like from the Bush administration on, our ability as consumers to hold companies responsible for harming us has been like super decreased. And they talk about like 3 or 4 other really big court cases that kind of show the problems with the idea of the frivolous lawsuit.
Oh.
And to me, like, they didn't really talk about this very much, but the thing I kept thinking was, well, who gets to decide whether it's frivolous? And then I kept thinking, well, the judge does, which is why there's a judge. So if there's a frivolous court case, the judge goes, you know what, this is, and it happens all the time.
Right.
Some person like sues this coffee shop because it's not close enough to their house, and it doesn't even go to court. The judge just goes, oh, that's frivolous. Like, you're just causing problems.
You're trying to, yeah.
Yeah, and so to me, it was like part of this bigger thing of like how judges have really like, their role is, I think, really important.
Right.
Because they're like a person who's, and I have some judges in my family, so maybe I'm a little biased, but like they've been tested, and they have to go through like a career before
Right.
you can say I am responsible enough to be a judge, and I understand the law.
They
enough.
just don't fill out a resume
Right.
and get the job. They
Yeah.
actually have to put in the
Totally.
they have to burn calories.
And I'm
to
sure
get
there
where to
are
go.
bad judges or whatever,
Yeah.
but their role is to like to arbitrate those things and to be an impartial representative who, you know, both sides go and put forth their thing, and then they say, okay, you. And to me, like, if a company wrongs you, so they've put in like caps on how much you can get from companies, or even like you know, a doctor that you sue, or if I sue you because you wronged me, they put on like caps. So if you sue a giant corporation like Halliburton, the cap is so small because it's a multi-billion-dollar company.
The percentage is really low.
Really
for them.
low.
It's like
totally. And then and they've put in other things. Anyway, I don't want to ruin it because it goes through all these really interesting points.
And did they ever hit on why, you know, like settling out of court too? They hit on that too.
Oh
Cool.
yeah, totally.
I like to see
and
that.
then to me, I kept thinking about like mandatory sentencing and how that really limits judges, because with the whole like marijuana thing, in the past when people have had to like, they get arrested for possession or something.
Right, possession.
There's mandatory minimums, and so sometimes a person who the judge is thinking like, well, really, if I'm a reasonable person, this, you know, there are extenuating circumstances.
Right.
But because it's a certain kind of drug charge, people end up in prison
For marijuana, yeah.
Which I think it happens less now,
No,
especially in
yeah,
Washington, where everyone's just like, it's legal, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I that's part of it. That's one of the reasons why they want to legalize it, is because it's to keep. There's so many people that are in prison because of an herb.
Yeah,
pretty
and
much.
in the 90s, it was really bad,
Yeah.
and there were people who got like 25-year sentences for possession of marijuana, and like that's crazy to me.
It is crazy.
Yeah,
it's
it's more than a lot of rapists and murderers get.
Right.
I mean, really, the scale of like what is reasonable to me is like all messed
the
up.
guy that killed all those kids on the island over there in was that Norway?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
actually eligible for parole.
Totally. They have like
That wasn't even 10 years ago.
yeah, they have a totally different justice system in Norway.
It's
I think Norway's the country that they get into it in. Is it okay? Now it's a Michael Moore movie, and it's the postscript to it.
Oh, is
and
it?
it's Bowling for Columbine, I think, because that's the movie that talks about. Have you ever seen Bowling for Columbine? It's fantastic. It's possibly my favorite documentary. It's so good. And that's where they talk about like gun laws,
Right.
and then they take you to this Scandinavian country, and it's either Norway or Sweden or
Right.
Finland, one of those. But it's like a little island that's their prison, and all of the prisoners are like just out in the open, and they all live in these little cabins and work on a farm, and it's all rehabilitative. And instead of like locking people up, they like have them work and socialize and like give them treatment for the stuff that they've like how to.
so they actually
correct.
rehabilitate them.
It was
That's
really interesting to me.
I have to watch
And then they
it. You're
talked
giving
about.
me a to-do list now with all these documentaries to read.
Oh my gosh, I could give you a million. But and then they talk about like how different that country's crime rates are than ours, percentage-wise of population. You know,
Okay,
like
per capita.
Yeah, which you know it's kind of apples and oranges because you have different problems when your population grows past a certain level. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if we had like small towns that were spread out over our whole space, we'd have totally different social problems.
Well, it's why smaller towns don't have
Yeah.
the crime rate that a bigger city has.
Yeah.
It's because it's just you have different
Right.
sets of problems and rules. Yeah,
Yeah.
The mentality is just different.
Yeah, and like just being smushed in close proximity to lots of other humans just causes certain kinds of problems, you
Yeah.
know? Which actually, this totally just reminded me of a thought I had on Mercer Island last night. Have you ever spent any time in Mercer Island?
Other than just driving over it, I think I've driven around it one time a while ago.
For those who don't know, Mercer Island is just outside of Seattle, and it's an island. And it's kind of like a super rich community. Like, the houses are redonkulous, and
Yeah.
everybody's, like, super wealthy. Like, Really, I've seen some houses there that I'm just like, what? Like, anyway, one of my niece's friends has an elevator in her house. And I'm like, cool.
Is it a 2-story house?
Crazy.
Is
It's like 3 stories.
Okay. Now she gets a pass. On 3 stories, I'm fine with. 2 stories, I'm like.
Oh, it's
now,
so funny.
If I went on a rant, and she was handicapped, I feel really bad.
No. It's a luxury elevator. It's for convenience,
Okay.
but or probably from carrying things from floor to floor or something. But anyway, we were at this summer festival, and like everybody knows everybody there. Like it was like a block party, but times 100. Like just tons of people there. They all seem to know each other, and like it seems like everything I go with them to seems like a small town.
It's a
really
real sense
cool.
it has a really tight sense of community.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They know all of their neighbors. They all they have this little park near my sister's house that's on, is it Lake Washington?
Yeah.
This lake? Is that Lake Washington? Yeah, because that lake's Lake Union.
Yeah.
This is Lake Washington.
They bleed into each other.
Oh, do they? That's why I get confused.
Yeah.
So they're really not distinct lakes?
I think Lake Union empties into the Sound through the logs.
Oh, okay.
And then Lake Union also, there's the cut, right? I'm asking my mom. She's
I
not
have
going
no
to answer.
idea.
Well, you know what? I'm just basically...
I'm trying to picture it in my brain.
I think they might not be.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? But anyway, they've got this little park that's just like the size of a plot of land for a house.
Yeah.
And then it has a little beach on it. And so it's just the neighborhood beach, and everybody goes there in the summer and swims.
Oh, cool.
And it has like a couple of logs that like kind of form a little pier almost.
I don't think I've ever
So
swam
fun.
in Lake Washington. I might have when I was little. So I'm getting a yes from my
Mom is
mom.
saying yes.
So we grew up around Green Lake.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that
My
was-
dad grew up around Green Lake.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
And people always like, oh, Green Lake's so dirty and blah blah blah.
Is
But,
it?
Nah, I don't think so.
I always
I
thought
never
Green Lake
died.
was
Maybe that's
pretty.
that's the real reason my hair is falling out. I swam in Green Lake.
Isn't Green Lake the one where you can't ride motorboats on it? What lake is that?
Yeah, it's Green Lake. They didn't.
Oh,
there's
okay.
no. They have
you
rowing.
can only canoe.
They have
and
rowing,
sailboard
paddleboat,
and stuff.
Yeah. They used to have mini hydro races in the day
Oh,
back.
that's
Yeah,
fun.
back. I remember going with my grandfather watching,
Yeah.
and they have a. I don't know if it's still there, but they have a grandstands or had a grandstands. You can sit and watch the boat races, and we would climb on top of and jump into the lake from, which is a big no-no because the part where you would jump into the lake from actually had chain link fence underwater. That you had to,
weird.
You had to clear. It was for security because
Yeah.
it's a boathouse too, and so they would draw the chain link fence up at night and then lower it down so the boats can get out.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And it would just be like
so
it
it's
would be like a
a
flat.
horizontal.
Yeah, and it would go down about.
I was picturing like a vertical chain link fence in the lake, and I'm like, that's weird.
There's things that they did that I don't think made sense, but it made sense when they thought of it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you'd have to jump out past this chain link fence, and if you didn't make it, you would never hit it hard, but you'd hit it and it would flip you over onto your face.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
That sounds very not safe.
we're boys do things that are safe. It's because trying to get the attention of girls. They're doing stupid stuff, which never works.
No.
That's
I don't know why. It must be evolutionary that boys all just act like dumbasses until they're
we're
35.
forever. I don't think it ends. It's Darwinism. We're trying to thin the herd.
I guess. That's so funny. Oh, that
This
sounds
coffee's
really
really
fun
good.
though. Yeah, it is really good. Mom is trying to get your attention. See, no, you have to sit. Now you have to talk out loud because now we're gonna have a big.
All right,
dead
she's gonna
space.
give me some
Just say
information
it.
about.
And all this that you were talking about wasn't Green Lake, it was Lake Washington.
No,
Really?
no,
I don't think it was Green Lake.
no. I know where I can show you.
Really?
Yeah, I don't want to argue on the podcast,
no.
but I will. I will argue.
I know you. But
So-
they had the aqua diving at Green Lake. They had these huge stands there, and they put on their cool little bathing suits and do shows at
Do
Green
diving
Lake.
shows?
Yes,
Oh,
it
that's
was beautiful.
awesome.
It was really, really nice. That was at Green Lake.
That's cool.
They would
And
always come up.
fireworks.
They
Oh,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember
And
going down there
fireworks.
with
And
granddad.
strangulations and murders of
Oh.
prostitutes.
Yeah. Now,
That's what I always think of when I think of Green Lake, right? Isn't that where the guy was?
What?
no, Green River.
Oh, Green River.
Green River. No, not
See,
Green Lake.
I'm not from Seattle, so
No, they
I
had
get them all mixed
gypsies
up.
at Green Lake.
Oh.
Well, guys that like to pretend they were gypsies
Ah.
to scare little kids.
Right, totally. No, the thing I was thinking of is, of course, I guess it's the Green River Strangler, the guy for the podcast listeners who aren't from Seattle and maybe haven't heard as much, growing up, I remember hearing about it, that there were, 35 women over 20 years that were snatched from the street. And then they finally caught him, in 2005?
Yeah.
And he confessed. And have you guys heard the confessions? They are chilling.
Yeah, very chilling.
Because he talks like we talk about coffee.
It's
Yeah, there was this woman, and I was like, well, she's a prostitute, so I can just rape and murder her. And he
They weren't people.
No, he had some very serious
He worked actually at
psychopathology.
Kenworth. He worked for Pat Carr, and
Crazy.
he actually at one time my brothers worked for Pat Carr, and so they might have worked
weird.
along with him. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
they did the interiors for the Kenworth.
Just a regular guy next door.
Yeah. Just seemed kind of, well, that's the thing is I think we feel like we can tell when people are up, and sometimes you can, because sometimes somebody has a very severe psychosis and it reads,
Right.
because we have, in my opinion, an evolutionary response to look at a person and tell if they're healthy or not. And so there's certain kinds of things like all of my clients have a lot of serious mental illness, and I think most of them, if you met them on the street, you'd go, I think there was something a little bit off.
You could smell the crazy on them.
But some of them, I would have a cup of coffee with them and maybe just think they were, not that they're not. I mean, they're all very kind people and very loving and very sweet, but they have a lot of issues. But there are certain kinds of, and psychologically, those usually fall into the personality disorder categories, where they have no empathy. They think of other humans as tools to them, and they don't socially interact. And it tends to come from really early childhood maladaptions,
Right.
where they don't learn to relate normally to other people. And that's really hard to tell, because they also learn how to pretend that they are relating normally to other people, because they're psychologically in some ways very high functioning. A lot of them,
Right.
have you read the book is called The Psychopath Test? It's awesome. Do you have a Kindle? I'll borrow it to you guys, or I'll borrow it. You guys, I can't talk today. I will lend it to you on a Kindle if you have one.
I don't
'cause
have
it.
one. No.
Or you can even read it on your
Yeah, I could probably.
phone or something.
Yeah, I could read on my phone.
But it's about sociopaths and
I have
Which-
seen that. I have seen that test. I've seen
Yeah.
the social, and I've read it. And I'm like,
yeah. Well,
I come
it's
really
a little
close.
misleading, which the book really gets into, the difference between normal, okay, I'm explaining this in a really weird way. He talks about how a lot of people with narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial personality disorder, which are the two that tend to be called sociopaths or psychopaths, sometimes they end up being serial rapists, sometimes they end up being CEOs and presidents, because it takes a certain kind of detachment from people in order to be someone who sends people into war, or who runs a multi-billion-dollar, like a Halliburton. Not that I'm saying Dick Cheney is a sociopath, but
But they tend
it
to
takes a certain kind of, I would be too emotionally fragile to do something like that, because I'm kind of an empathic person, and when I don't want to fire people, I don't want to cut a whole section to a company and put people on the street, but certain people can do those things, and sometimes they tend to be the same people who can also, if you're in a different place in life, knock over a convenience store, or
Right.
set fire to a car. Do things
Right.
that normally, like, I would think, oh, I'm hurting a human, but they haven't learned how to do that.
They're
To feel, oh, what would this other person feel, and to make that mean something to them.
It's just like they can't. Yeah, they can't
Yeah.
put themselves in there.
Totally.
It's like, well, I did it, so.
And I had a client once who had narcissistic personality disorder, and he was great because he was really like earnest in trying. Like, he knew that he had all these problems. He had like a criminal history, and I was working with him, and part of our work was just like, what do you think I'm feeling right now? But he really, like, his limits of his ability to empathize were really intense.
Where they were diminished quite a bit.
Yeah, because he wanted to really badly.
Sometimes that's some kind of emotional scarring or something like that at a young
Oh,
age.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Usually there's very early sexual molestation. There's really intense abuse from usually often a mother. Like, for some reason, it's way more psychologically damaging to have your primary caregiver when you're really, really young
Right.
be abusive. And not to blame mothers, because psychology blames mothers a lot, and it drives me really crazy. So if it's your dad who's your primary caregiver, then
Right.
I'm sure.
A
But
parent.
a parent. But it's really there's a lot of patterns in there that are really sad. Because
Yeah.
it's not the person's fault, and then they end up being seen as a monster,
Right.
when really it's a problem with our society that children are being
Right.
mistreated.
And you go back, and there's actually a chain of events.
there's always
because
a
their
chain.
parents did it, and their parents did it, and their parents
Yeah.
did it.
And of course, at some point, you have to then go in and go, well, you need to take some responsibility for this. But to me, then the response to that isn't to ostracize them from society, but it's to help correct the problem. Because often, oh my goodness, see, now I'm thinking of 10 more documentaries. You also need to watch, you know what, I'll post a list of the documentaries on our Facebook page that I'm mentioning today.
That would work really good.
Because they're all sort of related. Into the Abyss, which is the Werner Herzog documentary, which I'm obsessed with Werner Herzog. And also Paul F. Tompkins, who does an impression of Werner Herzog. He's on Doug Loves Movies and Comedy Bang Bang.
I used to watch. He has a podcast called Comedy Death Ray, I think.
Yeah, and it used to be Comedy Death Ray.
Okay.
Now it's Comedy Bang Bang.
Okay.
I don't know why, but they're the same group of people.
Okay.
And yeah, he does an impression of Werner Herzog that makes me laugh like I just sit there and laugh like I'm a little kid. It's hilarious. Werner Herzog does all these. He actually does, like, all of his documentaries are amazing. One of them's about the most famous one is Grizzly Man, which is about the guy who got eaten by grizzly bears.
Oh, right.
And it's amazing. The second most famous is Cave of Forgotten Dreams, which is a tour of the oldest cave art in the world, which is in France, and he gets like special permission to take cameras in and like go to parts of the caves that aren't open to the public. Right. And like when you think about that, you think like, oh well, it's just looking at cave art, but he's such a good storyteller that it is like emotionally awesome. And I watched it like 3 times. These are all on Netflix, by the way. The third is A Trip to Antarctica.
Okay. And
he just interviews people who work in Antarctica.
I think I might have seen that
Really?
one.
It's so good.
I think they aired it a while ago on PBS.
Oh, probably, yeah. And it's like he talks to like the crane operator in Antarctica and like why he chose to move to Antarctica, and it's so cool. And I
can see on your face.
Oh my gosh,
excited,
I'm obsessed with him. And then there's a couple other ones, but then the one that actually it's my personal favorite is Into the Abyss, which is this story of this murder. I think it actually was 2 people were murdered, but I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 people. But he interviews like all of the families of the victims, all of the families of the guys who did the crime, and the guys themselves who did the crime, and how like one of them's on death row, the other one's just in prison for life, and then everybody who's even like secondarily connected, and just kind of puts this little patchwork quilt together of a really devastating crime from like the like all the people it touches.
Oh.
And the reason I thought of it is that like the men who did the crime go on to like father children while they're in prison. And to me, and then they're talking about their fathers who were in prison, and their fathers are talking about their fathers who were in prison. And I'm like, oh, and you are just continuing the cycle, because now your kids are going to grow up with their fathers in prison. And it's so like frustrating to listen to. But then you think like, well, you can't like take away a person's right to father children, but should you be able to? Because and the moms are just a hot mess, and like it's like this. It's exactly what you were saying, like that chain of events that's creating like a generational cycle, you know. And it's, to me, especially as a social worker, that's all I spend my time thinking about is like, how do you change this cycle? And most of my clients have kids, and their kids, I imagine, like, have had a real rough go, and some of them are
that is
really
a slippery
adaptive.
Slope. That's a slippery.
It's super slippery.
It's almost, you know, because I'd say stop them from breeding. That's how you break the cycle.
And that's very unpopular in social work. But I have moments where I'm like, I don't know.
This person should not reproduce.
You can do so much damage if you're just willy-nilly having kids and you can't care for them emotionally. And kids are super resilient, and some kids grow up in the most horrific scenarios and become
fantastic,
lovely adults, and really go on to do amazing and wonderful things. And you know, and even a person who has a lot of problems has value. And so, you know, like, and sometimes sometimes it's hard to know whether they're really enjoying their life, because if they have a lot of mental illness, I think I'm sure they enjoy their lives. That's a weird thing to say. But to me, I just see a lot of pain, you know? And so that's kind of hard. But it's not like they have no value as a person. It's a tough question for me. Like, I spent a lot of time going like, what would be better for them? But then I'm not the person who can choose that. Ultimately, like, I don't know what's better for anybody.
They know. Only they know.
I know.
Really, honestly, true. And then even if they did know, they probably didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, and it's because you're in the head.
All I can do is look at them and go, well, if I were you, I would not be having kids.
Yeah. Here's your priority list. Children are way. Matter of fact, we're just going to erase children off your priority list right now. We'll get the white out. We'll ink it in later.
I know, but a lot of times, people with certain kinds of mental illness really, really want to have kids from a very young age because of the emotional connection to kids, and they feel like if they have kids, that will fill some kind of gap for them.
Right?
And it's like in certain kinds of people, it can be almost like, I mean, from an outside perspective, you go, oh, that is not going to fix your problem that you're having. But for them, it feels like, oh, I need to create another part of me so that I have someone to be emotionally, you know, supportive of me, which then is like a really weird dynamic to have with a child. If your child is there to serve you, I think like that's the opposite way.
I got to remember, nodding is not a response on a podcast. I just I'm sitting here bobbing my head. Yep. They can't hear me doing that.
No, so. That's okay.
It's
So,
I don't think I've seen any movies since last time we talked.
Really?
I think, we've seen Despicable Me last weekend, but we talked about that.
We did. I saw Despicable Me too.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. I like the Minions.
It was really funny, but obviously the plot was...
Get the mommy.
Yeah, the plot was really like, in my opinion, less important than the hijinks. Like, really, it didn't matter what was going on in the movie. Yeah. But it was very sporadic to me. I was like, this movie could have used a good, like a better villain. Because really, it was almost like they were finding the villain the whole time. So you didn't get this, like, really good, like, push and pull. Right. In my opinion. But it was really funny. Like, I laughed the whole way through.
I like Russell Brand, too.
And who did he play? I never figured that out.
He's Dr. Navarro.
Oh,
he's the
really?
You can't
I didn't even realize that.
Because he does a voice.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Which I always find to be really funny when big celebrities do a movie and just do a voice, then I'm like, well, then why have a big celebrity? Why not just have some?
But Russell Brand, he
guy.
does. That's his thing. He was a voice character before he was actually Russell Brand. So
yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Have you seen him on? He was on Morning Joe on MSNBC a couple weeks ago, and they were like super rude to him, and he calls them out on it. It's one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. It's like a 8-minute segment. Did you ever watch Morning Joe? It's the MSNBC morning show, and it's
I'm usually at work
a little bit obnoxious because they they have a little panel around a table and they all just kind of chit chat, and Joe Scarborough's a little bit too conservative for MSNBC in my opinion.
Oh.
And then Minka Kelly is his co-host, and she just like rolls her eyes at him the whole time, so she's a little passive aggressive. So he's on the show and it's just Minka Kelly and then 2 people who are like just kind of panel guests, and they start like almost making fun of him while he's sitting there, and he's like picking up on it, and he starts kind of giving it back to him. And then like at one point, one of the, not Minka but the other woman who's sitting there, says his name wrong, like calls him by another name, and then he's just like, do you guys do this for a living? This is your profession? You do this for a living?
I love that kind of humor too.
Oh my gosh.
It's so sarcastic.
It gets so uncomfortable too, because then they realize that they have been like being rude to him, and then he like starts like, he looks into the camera and he's like, next up, and he starts like pretending like he's the host of the show.
Like, I can do this.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And then he's like, I don't know how you can have a person on your show and insult them and sit across the table and get their name wrong and call yourselves professionals, and then like they like and then go to commercial. It's so funny.
He also has that British spin of humor too, and it's so, it's a condescending and sarcastic, and I just love it because it turns whatever they're doing against them. I love it. It's very smart humor.
Oh, totally.
I love smart humor.
Well, and he like goes through phases of, at first he's like kind of laughing with them, and then he like slowly turns it on them, and then he's making fun of them, and then he's just like, you're a rude person, like straight to their face, and it's so blissful to watch because really they were being super rude to him.
I got to find that.
I know. I'll try to post it on Facebook. Yeah, I will look for it. But that was a really good one. I also watched another clip recently. I subscribe to it's STFU Parents. Shut the fuck up, parents. And the reason I originally subscribed to it was it's kind of like a Tumblr thing, I think, but they have a Facebook page, and they just post like really narcissistic things that parents post on Facebook. So it's like sometimes they post stuff that's like a mom who's like, excuse me, if my baby smiles and waves at you, you need to smile and wave back. Like, what is wrong with you? You're not smiling and waving at my child. And then the blogger will post about, like, how, like, narcissistic parents are. It's like, oh, yeah, we all have to stop and acknowledge your child, like, because the world owes you. Because your child is so magical and special.
And then when
we
that
all
child
need
grows
to
up,
stop.
we're all going to deal with your child's problem.
I know, totally. So I started because I thought those were really funny, and now they post all kinds of different things. But they posted a clip of a British talk show, where it's this woman who's kind of like a reality star slash blogger slash like kind of one of those women who's sort of like a housewifey, like when I say housewife, I mean like Real housewife, kind of one of those pseudo celebrities who's on this British talk show talking about an article she wrote about how she judges her kids' friends based on their first names. So like,
weird.
If she's like, if my kids are on the playground and they're like, hey, Tyler, then I know that Tyler's family is working class, and maybe I don't want them to play with those kids. And like the people on the show are like horrified with her, and she just keeps going on and on about like how she doesn't want her kids hanging out with working class kids because they're not going to do as well in school, and she's saying all this like horribly classist stuff. And then about halfway through the thing, the woman who the whole time just has this look of like utter befuddlement on her face,
Right.
just goes, "Do you even hear what you're saying?" It's
Sometimes
so
we don't.
funny.
We just
She's
say
like,
it.
"You were talking about judging children because of their names." She's like, "Yeah, I mean, it's just an easy way to tell what kind of people you want your kids to hang out with." And she's like, "Do you hear what you're saying?" It was awesome.
that sounds
Oh my
brilliant
gosh.
too. I like that.
And then they have like this other woman on who's some kind of like author, and she's kind of like a squishy mom type. And I really liked her. And then she's just like, "I think you're an insufferable snob, and I have no problem with working class people. I come from a working class background, and I have a PhD, and maybe you need to check yourself." And then she's like, because to me, I think the little like celebrity kind of person thought she was just saying something like really funny and charming. And so she just keeps like going, "Oh, you know, it's just, I mean, it's a quick way to know." And they're just like, "No, you're a terrible person."
right.
Oh my gosh.
You're damaging society. Just
Oh, so funny. And then they get into like, then the male host says like, "Well, would you judge them based on their last name?" And she's like, "Oh no," like, because the insinuation of that is then you're being racist because if they have an ethnic back, and she immediately backs off and is like, "Never, I would never judge someone," and they're like, "I don't understand the difference between last name and first name then,"
Right.
you know? It gets really icy, and oh, it's so great. I was
That
like,
sounds
what
fun,
a great. That's why I miss Rosie O'Donnell on The View, to be perfect. Did you ever watch any?
no, I'm not too
So
much.
funny.
Because
She
it's all
was
on,
so, she would just like fight with people
Really?
and get really uncomfortable. It was glorious. Like, I hate that show other than during that time when she was on, and she kind of, at the beginning she was more nice and then lost like her niceness and just was like fighting with people, and there were some of like the best.
Is that probably why she's not on the
so
show
good.
anymore?
Oh, yeah,
they
she-
review her out.
Yeah, she was way too, but I know, she was way too uncomfortable, but really, like, that's the only time anybody paid attention to The View. And so to me, it was a bad move because she created, I was excited to watch that show when she was on.
Just to see what kind of fires might start.
Because there's that other girl, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, who's like really super conservative, and she would get into
Is that Matt
big.
Hasselbeck's sister-in-law?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know who that.
Matt
I thought it was
Hasselbeck.
her. I thought she was married to a football player.
They both are.
Oh, I gotcha.
So
Yeah,
it's-
Matt and
So her brother and husband are both football people?
her brother-in-law and her husband.
Her brother-in-law and her husband
They're
are
both,
football. Okay.
Matt Hasselbeck, in case anybody doesn't know, it used to be the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, I
So,
didn't know. I don't
yeah.
follow sporting.
That's all I know.
Nice.
I know. I'm a bandwagoner. That's the only reason why I know, because that was the only time we went to the Super Bowl.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting. The Bears played in the Super Bowl the first year I lived in Chicago.
The Bears.
The Bears. And while I didn't care, it was really fun because it was really a terrible winter, and you'd like be on a train platform like huddled under the heater, like dying slowly, and then someone would just run out and go, "Bears!" and then everyone would cheer. It was
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
It happened like 10 times when I was there, where it was just like spontaneous
It's
glee.
like, almost
Just
like a flash mob of Bears.
just the excitement of the idea of the Bears was just everybody would just start cheering, and it was like so awesome.
Yeah.
And a little bit of that with the Blackhawks the last couple of years that they've been doing really well.
Yeah.
But
That's a hockey team, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the hockey. They just won the whatever hockey trophy.
The Stanley Cup.
It could be that.
Something.
They won some magical prize
They
for
got it.
being hockey awesome, and everybody went nuts.
Getting
But-
all pucky.
But hockey's, I mean, people aren't legitimate hockey fans in Chicago, per se. I mean, there's hockey people, but the general public jumps on the bandwagon right at the end when
It's
the
more of a
Hawks are doing
northeast
good.
coast. The closer
Yeah.
you get to Canada, the more hockey
Or
fans you get.
Tri-Cities is a big hockey town. I watched more hockey growing up than any other
Yeah.
sport. Yeah.
It's weird because it's a desert. There's no ice in the
I
desert.
know, but there's kind of, I think, the hockey equivalent of farm league teams from,
yeah.
like, the Canadian, like, lots of Canadians come down and play for the Tri-City team used to be called, oh man, I can't remember the name of it.
Had an
The
animal.
Americans,
Oh.
the Tri-City Americans. I was like,
original.
I know, but then they were all these Canadian dudes who came down and played, and it was kind of like a feeder team for some of the bigger
Canadians
ones.
playing as the Americans.
I know, isn't it funny?
We got infiltrated.
But they're called something different now, I think. But I've been to more hockey events than I've been to any other sport.
Speaking of the
By a
Bears,
factor of
you gotta
10.
watch a music video that they did from the '90s.
Oh, I've seen it. What was it called? The Super Bowl Shuffle. Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's really
so
funny.
horrible, but it's
really
funny.
I like it a lot.
It's I feel uncomfortable for the guys doing it because it just looks that bad. But it's that kind of uncomfort that's like you can't help but to laugh.
I know, it's a
It's
little
like,
bit of
oh
a
my-
slow motion train wreck. Yeah. Have you seen the new video for Daft Punk's Up All Night? I think it's called Get Lucky.
Get Lucky.
We're up all night to get lucky.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? I'm
Keegan.
pointing at Keegan. It's all they did was take. I don't know if it's the official video, but it's on the Daft Punk YouTube page.
Okay.
All they do is take clips of people doing the Soul Train line from the 70s.
Oh, really?
Who are dancing like awesomely hilarious, ridiculous, like good dancing, but in such a goofy style.
Right.
And just clip it together. So the whole thing is just people doing, at the end of Soul Train when they walk down the line.
Right.
Just doing their busting a move down the line. And they sync it up so it looks like they're dancing to the song. And it is just one goofy dance after another. It's
weird
awesome.
that Daft Punk has made such a comeback because they were a big thing in the '90s.
I know, and then they kind of dipped, and now they're way
They're
back.
from Europe somewhere, aren't they?
I have no idea.
I think they're from the same.
Wow,
they're
the
from
music
France.
just got really loud. That was
did,
weird.
right?
I think it was like a crescendo in the
It was
song.
a crescendo.
Yeah.
We had to actually talk over it for a second.
I know, that was weird. Anyway, I highly recommend it. I've watched it like 11 times because it's like super goofy. And you get to see like, there's one dude who has a bow tie that's like 2 feet wide and a foot high. It's just like this crazy huge bow tie.
I think I remember
It's
that guy.
Awesome.
Because we used to watch like all those Solid Gold.
I watched Solid Gold more than Soul Train.
And well, Soul Train was like late 70s.
Yeah, it was a
early
little early for me.
80s. And then we'd watch American Bandstand.
Oh, nice. I never watched American Bandstand.
Then we watched Lawrence Welk.
Oh, yeah. I've only seen Lawrence Welk, like,
I think as we watched it because we were
rerun.
mad. We were being punished for something. Because it was horrible. Lawrence Welk it was probably.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I'd feel like we did something wrong because we were watching Lawrence Welk.
Have you seen it's a Kristen Wiig sketch from Saturday Night Live where they do the Lawrence Welk show, and they play like the whatever sisters, and they're all beautiful, and then she has like weird baby hands and like a really big weird forehead and bad teeth, and she's like the ugly sister.
Oh.
And that sketch is pretty funny, but my favorite part is it Fred Armisen? Yeah, Fred Armisen as Lawrence Welk, and he does like this awesome like there's like bubbles around, and he's just like, oh, the bubbles, like this really funny impression of Lawrence Welk.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I don't know what that's all what I do remember is the polka music, and some big band type like grandstand music, and just really bad. It was
well, that's back when you didn't need any performance ability to be a musician, because they all looked like dead-faced and like really boring.
You didn't need any talent.
No.
And that was the problem too. We only had 3 or 4 networks to choose from, so you got
slim pickings, as they say.
You were happy with the shit they gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and if you weren't happy, you had no better options, and so you just stuck it out until the end.
Yeah.
My sister and I were talking yesterday, though, about how we used to get HBO for a month at a time and then record all the movies off of it onto VHS and then just watch them. Like, we'd have HBO for, like, maybe a week or 2.
Right, would they do the free week?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And then we'd record everything and then just watch it for, like, a year. And just over and over and over again.
Which the sad part of that is when they would show all the good shit.
Yeah.
And then they would cut it off. And so they'd get you hooked on the crack. They'd get you on the good crack.
Yeah.
And they'd get you hooked on it, and you get subscribe or you pay the money for it.
And then the quality goes way down.
or they rerun. That's all they.
Yeah.
That's all you ever see is the same stuff. It's like, I just saw this last week. What's the new one?
I know.
But now they're getting better.
They are, because they have the multi-channels, so you're not like, you don't only have one movie going. You can pick between the different ones. I had HBO for like 3 months in Chicago when I had cable.
Right.
And it was glorious. It was so great.
Well,
but I'm too poor for that now.
I'm cheap. I just don't want to pay for it. I'll do Netflix. I'm thinking about going to Hulu Plus.
Yeah.
Because Netflix is just, I think I've said this before. It's just,
yeah, we were talking about that.
They're too delayed.
Yeah.
And
well, they're totally different. I mean, really, ultimately, Netflix was set up as a movie service.
Right.
And so they only do what's available on DVD. But Hulu Plus has, I mean, it's worth $8 because I'll blow $8 just like getting popcorn at the movies.
Right.
And really, I watch
That's
it.
actually cheap.
Yeah, I know. I'll watch it for like, I probably watch Hulu Plus at least 10 hours a week.
Really?
Yeah, because I watch probably 20 hours of TV a week, and I'd go 10 Hulu Plus, 10 Netflix.
I want to get it because I can watch it because we have a youngster in the house, and he dominates the TV, and that's
shameful.
But so if I have my phone, I can just watch Hulu on the phone. That's better that way. So
actually, you just made me think of another thing I watched this week, which is called Moon Boy. It's a new Irish sitcom and it's available on Hulu Plus.
Okay.
And the guy did you ever watch The IT Crowd?
No.
I can't think of his name right now, but he's in The IT Crowd. He's the cop in Bridesmaids, which is probably where most people have heard of him. He also plays Maya Rudolph's husband in Friends with Kids. He's like kind of an up and comer. He's the Irish guy. He's like the only Irish celebrity.
Is he got a really muddy Irish accent?
Oh, he's Irish, and he's super tall and goofy. He's kind of my dream guy, actually. Like. Super tall, kind of dorky, bearded, kind of schlubby. Like, I'm obsessed with him. He's totally super cute. Anyway, I can't think of his name, but he plays the imaginary friend of this, like, dorky little, like, 9 or 10-year-old boy in Ireland. Okay. And it is fantastic, because he has this, like, totally awesome family who's just ridiculous. And, like, he has 3 older sisters who are just, like, completely hilarious characters, and then his dad is like this kind of it's all these, he also has all these friends who are also dads, right? And there's this theme of like the dads being totally helpless in like their community, and they like all get together and like play poker, quote unquote, but they're not really playing poker, they're just sitting around talking about how like they have no control over their kids. It's so funny.
It does sound funny.
And
what's
then
it called again?
It's called Moon Boy, and it's
Moon
Moone.
Okay,
Boy.
M-O-N-E.
Because that's the family's name is Moon. Okay. And like, there's an episode where he comes home and his daughters are watching TV, and he's like, "I am the man. I choose what we watch on TV." And he like flies into this like, "I am taking charge," and they all just laugh at him and keep watching like Dallas or something. Because it's set, I think, in the 80s. Oh, okay. It's really good. Like, really funny.
And does it take place in Ireland, too?
Yeah. Okay. So they use a lot of Irish slang. Like, I had to look up shifting. Shifting is an Irish countryside term for kissing. Oh. Like, making out. And they kept saying shifting, and I was like, I don't know what that means. And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, thank you, Urban Dictionary. Now I know it's an Irish countryside word. It actually, in Urban Dictionary, says Irish countryside slang for snogging. And I was like, oh, well, snogging is a British slang for making out or kissing or whatever. Right. It's a really cute show. I highly enjoy it.
Is it put on the BBC?
I don't know.
Because
Hulu picks up a lot of British shows.
I love the BBC.
Yeah. It's really, like, it has a really cool cinematic style, too. Okay. Like, it's a single camera shot, so it's not like sitcom style, it's like movie style, and it has a cool look, and it's period because it's in the 80s, and they do the costumes really great, and like it really feels like it's out of the 80s.
In the 80s.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'd really like to go to Ireland. That's where my people come from, and I would like to go there.
They got the Highland Games coming up.
Ooh.
and that's up in that's at the King County Fairgrounds in Enumclaw.
Oh, here. I thought you meant in Ireland.
No, I mean, you
Ooh,
can,
that would be fun.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple Highland games, and they're super fun.
I've only been to one, and I just drank and ate these battered fries covered in cheese.
You did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Yeah. And
This is your chance to get the kilt.
it was really weird because we went there. I went there with my wife's cousin's husband, and he's Scottish, I think. The last name McClure. That's all.
Is what?
It's McClure.
Oh,
That's
okay.
his last name, McClure. And so we went there, and we're walking through, and they have these stands where you can buy swords, like the Scottish claymores
cool.
and stuff like that. And there's Japanese or Chinese or something, people selling Afghani, people who are obviously weren't Irish or Scottish.
Right.
It's like you're a little bit, you have too much brown on you.
Yeah.
Because and it was in August, so and most Irish people there were on fire.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were slathering
Yep.
sunscreen on themselves, and
I can relate.
I did. That's pretty much all we did. We watched the Collies. We went and saw the Collies.
What does that mean?
The Collie show. It's like the dog show.
Oh, like a
Yeah.
competing dog show?
They, I guess they were
Okay.
competing. They were doing something. I just know there's a bunch of dogs there.
Oh, was
Yeah.
it cool? Not really.
No.
The look on your face says no.
No,
I like watching the Westminster show on Thanksgiving, where they do like after the parade, they always have the Westminster show on.
All right.
I like watching that.
The dog show.
Yeah.
Okay.
On TV.
That's where I would watch it too.
Yeah.
Because I can turn the channel if I
Oh
needed
yeah.
to.
Plus, you
Or-
have an announcer that's like explaining to you what's happening, and I think that's helpful.
Right.
Otherwise, it would just be like some weirdo walking their dog around in a circle. But the announcer tells you like what breed they are and why they're a better dog, and they kind of like walk you through it.
Oh, another cool thing was, this is really interesting. They had all the clans represented there. So if you found your last name, you
Oh,
could
that's
find
cool.
out. You could find out
Yeah.
Because like, I think in Ireland or Scotland, the
Yeah,
colors you have
do
a
they-
certain pattern and a color.
Yeah, they call it something, but it's basically like a certain kind of plaid that means your people.
Right.
Yeah.
And your kilt would represent that, and
Yeah,
and
totally.
your sash would represent that too.
Yeah.
And I keep banging the table. It's
That's
gonna
okay.
keep
We'll
my
survive.
elbow.
There's so much noise.
Yeah.
But my people are from Northern Ireland, and
Yeah.
apparently my grandparents have like, they used to travel there like every few years for a long time to visit our extended relatives.
Yeah.
And we have like a lot of people from our side of the family that still work or still live there and stuff. And so they have like the crest, and they know like the
Yeah,
towns that my ancestors came from, and
So they have
you
their
know.
family colors.
Oh,
It's-
totally.
like-
Because in Ireland, it's not the plaid. That's Scotland.
Okay.
In Ireland, it's like
like a houndstooth.
kind of like they do like crests
Okay.
almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot of Scottish in my ancestry too. Even though we don't talk about it, when you look at it, you're like, oh, this is about 50%. But they're so close together. It's like, and they've been in the same country in different countries, and who
I'm
knows?
just reminded now of when we were living in Thailand. I actually, in our condo, there was a couple Irish people. One
nice.
guy I can understand clearly. The other guy, he sounded like his mouth was always full.
Oh,
And
yeah.
The one guy I can understand. He sounded just like an Irish priest. He was like it's like Father Mulcahy.
Oh,
you know,
kind
just-
of that sing-songy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I loved it when he would swear because it wasn't swearing. I'm gonna
Sounded
try
like-
to
Okay,
pull him
let's
up.
hear it.
It's Billy, and he would have it understand. They were both of them named Billy. It was the weirdest thing.
Weird.
And the one Billy, his accent was so muddy and thick that the other Billy couldn't understand him.
Oh.
He says, "Jesus Christ, Billy, I can't understand the fuck you're saying."
That's so funny.
And then they would always call each other cunts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's
Shut up, you fucking cunt.
that's like saying friend or dude. It's like saying dude, really. Like
yeah.
every other
I'm
word.
like-
I love it. I love
If I
it.
said that back home, I would be slaughtered.
Now, I say we reclaim the word cunt and do what like every other group has done, where you take your word back
You
and
say
make
it-
it mean something positive.
Right.
Because I think it's a hilarious word that's so fun to say,
It's actually,
and it's shocking.
I was
and
told one
wonderful.
time it's actually that word comes from it's a nautical term or
We talked about this
means
before.
wedge.
You told me that because I heard it means it's like Old Faithful is a cunt. It's a steaming hole. Which gives you a really vivid picture, doesn't it? That's why I like it so much. Because it's like,
steaming hole.
it's such a like shocking image.
Such a steaming hole, you fucking
I love it. It's glorious. Well, we're about out of time.
Oh man, already.
I know, we've been chitting it up. So, thanks for listening. You can find us on Facebook. You can search From the Coffee Shop. I'm Peggy Hurson.
And I'm Scott Clark.
And you can find us on Twitter at Coffee Shop Podcast. And you can find us on SoundCloud, looking for From the Coffee Shop.
From the Coffee Shop.
And you can email us at fromthecoffeeshoppodcast@gmail.com. So feel free to send us your suggestions. Follow us on Facebook because we've really gotten, I think, a good groove of posting just fun stuff that has to do with the podcast
and
regularly.
Please also, if you find our fan page, write us, give us feedback, and you can post pictures if you like. You can.
And I would just like to encourage anybody who's listening to go back and listen to our very first episode 1, because we are like this close to 100 listens. I think we're at like 96 now.
Get to the century mark.
I know, so I think it would be really cool to get more than 100 hits this week, or whatever you call it.
And I've noticed too, it doesn't. If I go back and I listen to it, it doesn't change.
It doesn't count you again?
No.
That's good, because what we were talking about earlier, that SoundCloud has a thing where, I'll be in my car listening to it on my phone, and it will jump me to the next episode because of the buffering sometimes.
Which is weird. I never
really
encountered that. I never
Maybe you just have a better signal than I do. So sometimes I'll be listening to it, and then it'll skip me ahead, but I'm driving, so I can't fix it. And then later I'll go back and try to find my same spot again, and I end up listening to it 6 times just to get through one episode.
Well, hopefully soon that will be fixed, because it will be on iTunes, and you can just download it, and you don't have to stream it.
Yep, and hopefully we will get that going soon, and we'll have details as soon as we do.
I did read somewhere, once you get on iTunes, that you become a little bit more, it's easier to find.
Yeah, it's way more searchable.
Right.
So I'm really hoping we can do that ASAP.
Get the podcast app on your phone.
Heck yeah. And on iTunes, you can download it so that you're not playing it using your cell service. You're playing it using the actual MP3.
So people who are worried about going over their data doesn't have to worry about it. So.
For sure.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.